This story starts off very late in the evening, perhaps towards midnight, and there's a woman called Carol who's round about 40 to 45 years of age, and she's standing gazing across the river. She's on her own, and she has a look of perhaps some type of satisfaction or even anticipation. She's got something on her mind, some type of purpose. It's a moonlit night, and she's having a look at the city at the other side of the river. After a while, she walks away from the riverbank and heads into the woods. And all dark, of course, and she's going through the paths in the wood on her own. Probably it's after midnight now, so you wouldn't be expecting to see anyone else around in the woods at that point, or anyone normal, you might say. So she makes her way through the bushes and trees, wandering along for quite a while, perhaps 30 minutes of walking. She maybe have covered 1.5 miles to a couple miles, and Carol comes across an isolated house, a kind of cottage, 2 levels. She sees it in the distance and heads towards this house in a break in the woods, and she stops and tucks her hands right into her pockets. It's quite a cool night, and the wind's now beginning to pick up, and there's clouds flowing quite fast across the moon. Coming in, looks like the weather's about to break or change. So probably not a good idea for her to hang around too long. Out in the outside, it's getting very chilly, and perhaps it's going to start getting a bit stormy. So she heads down a slight bank and along a thin path and right up to the door of the house cottage, which looks pretty good condition outside. It's fairly well maintained, so it's not dilapidated, and she stands at the door. There's no lights on inside, but she stands at the door, hesitates, and looks back over her shoulder, and at that point the moon breaks through the clouds and shines right off her face, casting a kind of a silhouette on the door. And she then takes out a Yale key, puts it into the lock, and turns it, and instantly the door opens. It's all dark inside, so Carol reaches for a light switch. Bing! And on goes the hall light, and it looks pretty good inside, as if it's a lived-in house. It's got carpets, decorated decor, furniture. Looks like someone lives in it. It's not been abandoned. And she seems to be kind of familiar with the orientation, and goes to the right, goes along a short corridor. It enters a medium-sized living room. It's not a small living room, not particularly huge either. Enough for a sofa and a couple of armchairs and maybe a coffee table, a bookcase, maybe even a small dining table, but not a huge room, not particularly small. And she switches the light on in there and looks around, takes a breath, as if to say, I'm here now, and starts to consider making herself at home. One of the first things she does is go over to the hi-fi radio tuner, switches it on, starts to tune into the local station, and lo and behold, the announcer on the news says, best to stay inside overnight because there's a storm coming which could produce very high gusts and winds and perhaps some structural damage, so best to keep inside, as for a good few hours through the night there could be very tricky conditions for anyone outside. Best to kind of batten down the hatches and keep inside. And just towards the end of the bulletin, the man announcer says that one more piece of news is that they've just heard that a dangerous person has escaped from the local asylum, and the person is out on the loose, been out for a couple of hours, and should not be approached because they're dangerous. And just at that point, there's a bigger gust of wind and the lights just pop out. There's a buzzing sound. The radio switches off because it's plugged into the mains, and the lights in the living room pop out. So Carol is left standing there in the shadow with just the bright moonlight coming through the window, giving her enough light for you to see her silhouette and for her to see around to see if there's anything she can do. She walks forward towards the wall switch and flips up and down. Of course, nothing happens because the electricity mains has been cut off. Carol has some familiarity with the house, so she finds her way into the kitchen and starts to rifle through some drawers and cupboards and pulls out a big household box of matches. And then she comes back into the living room and goes to the side where there's a cabinet, and she brings out 4 candle holders made out of glass, cut glass. 2 circular ones and 2 star-shaped. They're in different colours. The star-shaped ones are green and blue cut glass, and the oval or circular ones are golden in colour in terms of the glass. And there are candles, short candles in each candle holder. So she sets about lighting the 3 candles up, and with the big box of matches, and she puts them down on the coffee table, which is near the big, soft, comfortable, velvety kind of sofa, and thinks, well, no electricity, but I've got some light and I'm inside. So the candles are flickering away with their beautiful flames, very colourful, and Carol decides to take her coat off and get relaxed, puts her coat to the side, and there's a throw or blanket on the back of the sofa. So she takes that up, lifts it up, sits herself down on the sofa, leans back, and puts the blanket over her and prepares to sit it out. No electricity, no lighting, but some candles to keep her reassured. And she starts to doze off. It's probably well after midnight now, maybe about midnight. And outside we can hear the trees rustling and shaking as the storm winds become stronger as the storm approaches. So she's on her own in the isolated cottage. We don't even know why she's there, and we don't even know who she is. And the candles flicker away, casting a shadow overhead, a big silhouette onto the wall directly behind her, the flat, plain wall. So there's a flickering shadow of Carol, and she's cross-legged, which she's making her top right foot protrude out towards the coffee table from the sofa, and she's making kind of circular movements with her feet as she's beginning to drift into a dream. And then her eyes start to go into rapid eye movement, REM sleep, where lids are closed, but you can see her eyeballs rapidly moving from the left to right. And she's obviously then dreaming. And outside there's a couple of cracks, as if someone nearby has trodden on a little branch or twig. It sounds like footsteps, hesitant footsteps. A couple of steps, then a stop, then a pause, then maybe a couple more, and maybe a twig cracking. Carol is unaware of this because she's in the land of Nod. Maybe about 12:45 now, in terms of AM, the time. And then there's a thud, bum, bum, on the door, the outside door. There's a loud, purposeful chap. Boom, boom. Carol's eyes snap open, wondering whether this was part of a dream or whether it was actually happening. And then, bum, bum. The door bangs again. Yes, it's real. Carol's eyes are now fearful. She thinks, yes, she has locked the door from the inside, bolted it. She came in from the front with a Yale key, but she bolted it, so she knows at least that job's been done. It must have been automatic for her. So then there's a pause. Then the knock gets louder and a bit more impatient. Ba-bum. Carol looks over to the fireplace and notices a strong iron poker as part of the fireplace set. So she picks this up and heads along the hallway towards the door. It's a solid front door which is bolted. Carol stands at the door, right up close, trying to hear who or what's outside, with her poker in hand brandished to her front. "Who are you? Who is it?" Carol shouts through the doorframe. "I need help," says a voice of what appears to be a young man, and the accent is fairly refined. "Can you help me?" The voice doesn't sound particularly threatening or menacing, perhaps a bit desperate. "Who are you?" Carol shouts again. What do you want? I've hurt my leg. I need some help. Can I make a phone call? Carol hesitates. Who is this person outside?